Hey guys, it is Carl Brown from GuitarLessons365.com. Got one that's been requested a lot lately, so I'm going to jump on it. We're going to learn how to do Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Before I get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell, of course, so you know when I release a new video. And most importantly, check out the Guitar Academy. It's the GL365 Guitar Academy. The link is in the description. It contains all my guitar courses. Got lots of cool stuff there. You know, a great community. So please come over and join us. All right, so we are in E flat tuning here. So every string down a half step. All right, so that's going to be E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, E flat. All right, so with that, we're going to start here with this main riff that I just played. All right, so that's going to start up here in the 7th position. We're going to have the open E string, 7th fret on the A, 9th fret on the D. So we have that, those three together, and then mute the low E, and we're going to go up to the, take that power chord up to the 9th fret now, and 10, then 3. So we have. Then we're going to grab a D major chord, just a standard D major chord. A couple strums on that. Then you got to jump back here to get to this E power chord back where we started. And then the second time around we do this. So that's just climbing up. Start with the E and then go up 9, 10, 12, 10, 9, 7. So all together we have this. Just repeat that. And then after you've played it twice, we have this. Just to end it. That's a hammer on from 5 to 7 on the low E, and then the A as well. Then into that same E power chord. We have. All right, so that's the verse coming in, and the guitar comes back in. I guess you can consider this the chorus. It sounds like this. All right, so that riff right there is, we're going to start with just a C power chord, 3rd fret, up to a D. So that's like down, down, up, and then we have this. Hammers 4 to 5 on the D string, then over to 7 on the A, and that slides down, so we have this. Then we still have that same down, down, up rhythm again on the low E, muted. And you kind of come up here and grab this G chord. We're gonna, it's the 12th fret across the D, G, and the B. So we have this so far with this. Then we start with that rhythm again. Now we do this, which is going to hammer 4 to 5 on the D again, but this time play the 7 on the D string. And then you're going to end it by pulling off 5 to 4, and then play the 7 on the A, and slide that down. So the whole riff there is this. All right, so from there, it ends with just the E power chord. I've done that riff a couple times. So that whole section, I'll just play it real quick. So end it with that chord. Now we have this kind of roll off. It's really two parts in one. I don't think he plays both parts live like I'm going to here. But I just call it the Blackbird section because it's using the the voicings like of tenth intervals throughout, except for the very last one, which is an 11th. But so I always just whenever I see that shape, I always say that's like Blackbird by Paul McCartney. But it doesn't sound like Blackbird, but you know what I mean. So anyway, so you kind of roll off the volume, and I'm going to do both of the melody lines that you're hearing together, and that's what's going to create that 10th interval. So we have this. All right, so that's going to start with the, I kind of tuck my pick in here, and then I just finger pick this with the thumb and then the index finger. It's kind of the easiest for me. So we just have 7th on the A, then 8 on the B. Then we come up here and play, now, so the notes, by the way, are going to stay on the same two strings. So we're going to start with that 7 and 8. Then move up here to 10 on the A, 12 on the B, down to 9 on the A, 10 on the B. So this. Then you're going to jump down to 5 on the A, 7 on the B, and then you pretty much go back to that first chord. So this. So when we get back to the first chord, it's almost like we're starting over. We're just going to have a different ending chord. So we have this. And then instead of going down to the 5, 7 here, we have a different ending, which is move up to 12 on the A and then 15 on the B. And then once again, you're going to get back around to that first chord by playing those 5 and 7 together first. That kind of leads in to the getting back to the beginning, kind of transitions back to the beginning. So we have this. First ending, and then repeat. And from there, we just go to this last chord to, I'll call it chorus number 2, but it really kind of goes into a solo pretty quick. So it looks like this. All right. So there we have basically we just have those chords on our kind of going on underneath it, but really just Iommi when he plays, he just does the C chord and then goes into the. So when he's doing that live, he just kind of jumps right into those parts. And then when we get to the. It's just that main riff under it. All right, so now let's get to the part that, so you can kind of combine the parts. So we had this C power chord and with that's sliding into the 7th fret there on the A string, then play 5, 7 on the D, bend it up, and play without the bend, some vibrato, and then we're just going to do this lick twice. We're going to pull off 7 to 5 on the D, over to 7 on the A. So do that twice. So we have this so far. All right, and then we're back to the C power chord again. Then that same lick we did before, except instead of doing this ending, we have this ending, which is going to be a bend and a release at the 9th fret on the G string. Then play 7. And then kind of do the same thing here at the 7th fret on the D string. And then 5 after that. So we have this so far. All right, now back to the C chord, and then from here we kind of keep going with the solo. So that starts the same way. But now we just go. So that's sliding into the 9th fret there on the D string, over to 7 on the G, a big bend there, it's a step and a half bend, and then release, and then when you release, you kind of do a kind of staccato, picking across the notes. So it's going to be play 9, 7 on the G, then 9, 8, 7 on the D, down to 5. So we have this. And then you're gonna bend and release there to 7, pull off to 5, and then back to that 7. So. All right, from there we have this. So what that is it's a pull off 5 to 4 on the D, into the open D, and then hit the open D and hammer back onto the 4th fret. And then you're going to come over and hit the low E string with also the 7th fret there on the A. And then we have this, which is 7 on the D, 4 on the G, and then 5, 4, then 7, 5 on the D. So that whole section there with so far. So after you play this lick, then we have this next phrase. So it's just after, right here, we just jump up here to that 7th fret. I'm sorry, the 9th fret there on the D, and then 7 on the G, and then do the bend on the 9. You kind of do that 3 times. Now last one, bend it a couple times. So this. And release that bend and over to 7. and then 7 on the D. And then that same ending. And then we have a little fill I haven't covered yet that leads us into the bridge. It looks like this. Okay, there's a little transition fill that leads right into those bridge chords. So that is, you're gonna pick 7 on the A string, and then pick 4 on the D, hammer on 5, then back to that 7 on the A. And then you're gonna pick 4 on the D, hammer 5, hammer 7, and then pick 4 on the G. All right, then we get to the bridge. Got some interesting. It's kind of interesting how the bass player is playing with this. So you can do some of those bass notes on the guitar as well. I'll show you how if you want to. But I think Iommi is really doing just the higher kind of triad stuff. But it sounds like this. All right, so that starts with an A minor chord. So open A string, 7th fret there on the D, and then you're gonna bar the 5th fret across the G and the B only. So just those 4 middle strings. And you're gonna resolve that to a D major triad by playing it across the 7th fret of the D, G, and B string. Let's try this. Then we're going to go to an F major chord here, but he does have a D in there, so you can look at it. Is it D minor 7 if you want? So that's just the, this is just, you can see it as an F major triad here, which is just 5th fret there on the high E string, 7th fret there on the, 6th fret there on the B, and 5th fret on the G, open D string with it. Then resolve that to just the C triad there, which is barring the 5th fret across the D, G, and the B. So far I have this. Then basically you do the move that we just did here, take it up 2 frets and do the same thing. So it's a G chord now with just the D in the bass. So second version G chord to a major chord, so it's the same. Then you're going to take that and move it down to a regular A major. So all together we have this. Now I said you could do some of the bass line too. So this is just that, what I'm talking about is after this A minor to the D, when you get to this F, you can add, or the D minor 7, you can add this A in the bass. You can hear the bass guitar doing that note. So if you want to play that, you can. And then the same thing when you get up to this G chord, you can hear the B in the bass. But you don't want this A string to ring, so let that thumb come over and mute that A string. So if you want those 2 bass notes, it's up to you. All right, so let's jump into it now. We come in out of the bridge into that same familiar riff with this. And then at the end of here, you'll hear a fill come in like this. It kind of ends that section. It looks like this. kind of leads us into the solo. So that's kind of a bend to the 15th fret, and then play 15, 12 on the B. And then a bend and release at the 14th fret on the G. And it sounds like it hammers real quick, 12 to 14 again. Hit that 14 a couple times. And then back to the 12 a couple times, and then play 14, 12, 14 on the D. That's the way it is. All right, now we have Tony Iommi's solo. So let me play through this. I'm gonna add a little bit of delay to the sound because he's got a lot of delay going on his tone there. So I'm gonna play through the solo real quick, and then I'll show you how to play it phrase by phrase. All right, so we're going to start here with a bend and release of the 2nd fret on the G string. And then the open E. All right, easy intro. It's a long release of that note. And then the open E. And then we're going to come up here to the that same chord that we played in that riff right there. Let me turn that delay off. So we have that chord right there at the 12th fret across the D, G, and the B. And that's going to be followed with this. So that's kind of bend up the 14th fret there on the G and release. Pull off to 12. Over to 14 on the D. So do that a couple times. And that second time you get to that 14th fret on the D, hit it a couple times like this. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to play 12 on the G, back to 14 on the D, over to 14 on the G, back to that 14 on the D, and then back to that 12 on the G. So we had this. And then you're going to go over to the D string, 12th fret, and play the hammer on 12 to 14. And hit that 14 a couple times. So with this. All right, from there we have a long bend again at the 15th fret on the B string. Release. And then we have this descending phrase. So we have this 12 to 15 twice on the B string. Back to the 12, and then over to 14 on the G. Then what you're going to do is play 12 on the G, 14 on the D, and play 12, 14 on the D. So we have this. And then you're going to do that same lick again, except you're going to move the last two notes down to the A string. So we do that 12 on the G to the 14 on the D again. And instead of playing the next two notes on the D, 12, 14 on the D, you play 12, 14 on the A. So we this. So we this. then come down to 10 and 12. And then play the last one is going to hammer 9 to 10, pull back off to 9. So we have, after that bend, and then you just kind of hammer those notes. And then we go back up. All right, so that's when you're going up, you slide up to the 14th fret on the D string. Just kind of starting this lick where you slide into the 14 on the A string, and you're gonna just kind of hammer 12 to 14 on the D, and then pick that 14 again. Actually, pick it a couple times. Same thing on the G, and then 12, 15 on the B. So it's weird. It's actually, when you're ascending like that, it sounds like you're picking the first note twice, then doing the hammer. And then when you get to the high E string, you reverse that. You do the hammer, then pick the note twice. And so when you get to that high E string, you hammer at 12, 15, do that lick, and then the same thing on the B, and then the same thing twice on the G. And then he just kind of messes around between the 12 and 14 on the G and on the D together. Until we start getting into starting building up to the next part of the solo, which looks like this. So that's going to be bend at the 14th fret on the G, and then 12 on the B, 15 on the B. And then you're just going to do a bend on the 14 again, and then skip right to that 15. So with this. Then a bend on the 14 again, then play 12, 15 on the B, over to 12 on the high E string. So we have this. And then you're going to end it by going back to that 15 on the B, and back to the 12 on the high E, and then a couple of unison bends. So a unison bend is holding a note here on the 12th fret on the high E, then bending a note at the 15th fret on the B string. So kind of. A couple of unison bends there. Then we have this. All right, so after this 2 unison bends, you jump up here to the 14th fret and play 12, 14, 15, 17, 15, 14, over to 17 on the B string. Then work your way back up. You're gonna play 17 on the B, and then 15, 17 on the high E. And then you're gonna do a whole step bend there. And then you just play 15 to 14 a couple times. And then a big bend at the 17th fret there on the so once again another step and a half bend at the 17th on the B. So we have this. And then play 12, 15 on the B, and end it with that unison bend. Now we get to the kind of outro chorus, I guess. And there's a quick little solo here, but before I get to the solo, well, there's a long solo. So there's actually kind of like what I could say is kind of a continuation of this main solo a little bit. And then all the soloing after that, I'm not going to cover note for note. That's just, you can just kind of do it yourself, just kind of, he's just soloing in E minor, all right? So instead of, whenever there's a bunch of vocals going on and solos just kind of wandering around, I like to skip it. So we'll do the main solos and this little guy in a second. But the chords underneath all of this stuff is going to start with just the E power chord to a D major chord, and then to a G power chord. So now, and then it goes back to the E. So it's kind of treated like this. And then back to the E power chord to the D. So when they first start doing it, it's a little weird how they do it. They do the E to the D, then the G to the D, then the E to the D. So it's kind of, it feels like it's only 3 parts there. There should be a 4th. But then they just repeat that. So they go E, D, G, D, E, D, and then E, D, G, D, E, D again. So it kind of sounds like this. Starts over from here. But as they do that, then they start shortening it down to just 2 times 2, which is just the E to the D to the G to the D, just doing that. So we just have. And you could add, especially when it gets to that section, you can add that when you play that F sharp, the D chord, play that F sharp there in the bass when you're getting ready to go to the G. So we do this. And then don't do it here when you're going back to the E. So it does switch to that as they continue to play it, and the solo just kind of keeps going over that. All right, so now let me just play that short little solo that happens there real quick, and then I'll show it to you. All right, so that starts way up here. Kind of a weird lick there. So we're going to be bending at the 19th fret on the G string. Bend up a whole step, and then play it without the bend. And then play 19 on the high E string. And then play 17, 20 on the B into a bend. So it is. Then jump up here to the 22nd fret, do a bend there. And then while you're holding that, play the 22nd fret there on the high E string too. So and then back to the 17, 20, and the bend. So it is. So there, it kind of comes back to the 12th position real quick, and just roll from the 12th over on the high E to the B into a bend on the 15th fret. And then kind of go down the scale, 12 on the high E, 15, 12 on the B, and then bend and release to the 14. And then you start making your way up the pentatonic. And then when we get up top, so we have this. So just kind of go up the E minor scale, 12, 14, and just go between 14 and 15 a couple times. And then up to the 17th fret into a bend, release the bend, pull off to 15, over to 17, and then back to the bend. It goes 15 into that bend, and just bend and release it over and over until it fades out. So this. And then we're back to. All right, so it kind of continues that on until, the end. And then we have this little, like I said, that solo keeps going over those riffs. And I'm not going to cover that solo note for note, but it's just, you just play E minor pentatonic or E natural minor, and that's what he's doing. He's just kind of improvising through it, okay? So I'm sure you can make it sound great. Let's jump now to this. I don't have a nylon string acoustic around me right now, so I'm just going to do this on electric, a little clean tone. But we have, once again, we have this kind of repeated arpeggio figure on the outro. There's two acoustic nylon string acoustics going on here. One is playing this kind of repeated arpeggio figure, and then the other one's doing. It's not the most repeated lines, but it's kind of based around the same 7 notes. So I'm just going to kind of show you the 7 notes and some things that he's doing there instead of, and then you can just improvise with those 7 notes over it. Just kind of like how the recording is anyway. So let me play the one part, the lower, the arpeggio part first. So here we go. So it kind of repeats that. It sounds really cool. So it's going to start, you're going to hear. That's really kind of the beginning of it. So you're holding the 2nd fret on the D. So you pick that note on the D string, and then you're going to have open high E and then the open B string. So you do that 4 times. And then we start the actual pattern. We have this. It's the same picking, but we're going to play 12. No, start with 2 on the D, then 4. Same picking there, though. And then 5. And then you're going to play 4 on the G string. So the picking, that's the only thing that's different with the picking. You're going to start, the first note's going to be in the G, and then you still follow with those 2 open strings. We have this. From there, you're going to go to the 5th fret on the G. Follow with those 2 notes again, 2 open strings. And then here, the rhythm changes a little bit. We play the 2nd fret on the G string and just the high E string after it, because there's a quick little transition. So this part, if you know the sound of. Set it up. We got to make room for that. So after you do the 5th fret there on the G with the 2 open strings, you play the 2nd fret on the G and just the high E open. And then what you do is you jump back to the 5th fret on the G, just hit that, and then go back to the 4th fret on the G with the 2 open strings following it. So we have this. And then you're going to resolve that over to the 5th fret there on the D string. And now once again, this is a transition moment too. So you're just going to hit the low, the 5th fret there on the D, and then the high E open. And then you're going to go, you play the 4th fret on the G by itself, then down to the 2nd fret with the full picking pattern there. And then the full picking pattern off the 4th fret of the D. So it's just about figuring out where those little, and then those little transition. So the first one starts when you get to the 2nd fret on the A note, so it's the 2nd fret on the G string. So it's good to just practice that right there. And then again, the next one happens when you're down at the end of the riff, or when you're down at the G. You go down to the G note, which is the 5th fret of the D string. And just practice that, because then after that, it's the same picking pattern. So all together. Start over, you just start with that same figure repeated 4 times. So that just repeats for a while. And what's going on is he's playing this. So it's kind of. So he's kind of messing around, and just the notes that he's messing around with, all they are the 10, 8, 7 on the high E, same notes on the beat, and then 9 on the G string. So it's just a 1 octave E natural minor scale. So it sounds like when he's doing this, he's doing a lot of. It's kind of doing a lot of that stuff. And then when he starts, it sounds like. So he kind of works his way to the 7th fret on the high E, and then he'll do some random lick underneath it, and then up to the 8th fret, and then the 10th. And then, so it's kind of random. So just have fun with those 7 notes. You can't really do anything wrong. It sounds great with it. It will take forever to get every note exactly right, plus it starts fading out and all that stuff. But it's just messing around with those 7 notes while you have that really cool rhythm figure underneath you. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth breakdown of Heaven and Hell. I did a lot of Dio recently, and I've obviously done a lot of Black Sabbath, so everybody's like, hey, you need to do them both in the same one. So we've accomplished that now. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.